Good morning and welcome back to Morning Live for the Sports Desk. My name is Vosiwe Ngobo. Now, many football fans have been up in arms due to errors made by officials costing their teams precious points, and the call for the introduction of video assistant referee has grown louder in South Africa with every mistake made and every point lost. It does seem that these calls have not fallen on deaf ears, and there is seemingly some movement and progress in making VAR a reality in South African football. To help us talk to us about this, we've roped in well-known former referee Victor Gomes, who is now the employee of the National Football Governing Body. He is the chairman of the Referees Committee. Victor Gomes, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
A very good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of talking all things VAR, which we've been yearning for in South Africa, how has life been after stepping off the field as a referee, the one that is not scared to pull out the cards, to now being the chairman of the Referees Committee?
Yeah, you know, when refereeing is in your blood, it's difficult to just stop and turn away from it. And I'm very happy and I'm grateful to SAFA and the authorities for allowing me to give back to football in something that I'm very passionate about, which is refereeing. And, you know, the commitment that I had on the field is something that I intend to carry on in the boardroom, should I say.
Indeed. Now let's talk about this VAR and the calls in South Africa. Now we heard the SAFA CEO, Tebogo Motlanthe, speak about how there have been some delays in terms of the process. Where are we sitting right now in terms of eventually introducing VAR into the DSTV Premiership and South African football in general?
Yeah, so I've made it very clear to everybody that that was my first priority, is to get VAR into South Africa, and I'm grateful that we have the support. Although it's not a thing that happens overnight. I think I looked at the document 2 weeks ago when I got elected, and it's a 32-page document. I can say that we've already engaged the likes of COSAFA, the likes of CAF and FIFA, and we are now working on budgets, and the committees, even yesterday I just touched base with them, and they're hard at work. There's lots of policies. We need to understand that it's not a decision that we say, okay, we want VAR, and we start doing it. It's an issue of, I like to compare the referees, it's like an airplane pilot's license. You need a certain amount of hours. So the referees need to be trained, and all of these obviously works around budgets as well. So we are working on all of this so that we can present it to the stakeholders and then proceed with this in bringing VAR to South Africa.
And I mean, Victor, also just the logistics of having VAR, like just being able to have it in every single one of the DSTV Premiership encounters, whether or not they're being broadcast. Those are also other considerations that need to be taken into account. And as you answer that for me, also just in terms of the level of skill and experience of the referee himself or herself, they may have VAR, but still they would need to have the basics down to the core.
I'm smiling to see that you've done your homework, because it's something that people need to understand. You cannot have VAR in only one game and on all the other games not. So in other words, for whatever tournament you have or for whatever competition you have, VAR needs to be consistent. And that's the other thing that you alluded to, is that there are some games that there are no TV coverage, and therefore we need also VAR there. So the implications of that are also, and that affects the budget. So you can see that calculating the budgets where you have a game that already has TV presence and one that hasn't, it's a mammoth task.
And we've also seen as well, Victor, I mean, VAR doesn't mean everything's going to be 100%. We've seen errors in the EPL with VAR, then still the wrong decisions being made.
Yeah, you know, VAR it's a philosophy of minimum interference, maximum benefit, and I think football lovers in general will accept an incorrect decision on the field. But when the official goes to the VAR cabin, they accept that the correct decision is done. And I'm saying we shouldn't focus fully on VAR. We should be saying, let us improve the standard as well, because it works hand in hand.
Now, football fans, we love football fans, but they always cry foul when mistakes are made. And talk to us about just the consequence management now that you step into this position at SAFA, particularly looking at how some of these errors can have financial implications for a team, depending if it's a cup competition and it's a knockout competition, and also just from that emotional point of view. I mean, we've seen clubs being up in arms following calls which they feel were not the right calls. So what type of management are you putting in place there, just in terms of consequence for your referees?
So it's important to note that in every span of life, when people make errors of judgment or mistakes, there's consequences. And we need to look at how do we bring the people back into the system after making this error. And we can't be saying that, referees or officials are costing teams and nothing is being done. No. And I mean, just in any organization, we don't get a report every week as who's got a warning letter, who got dismissed, etc. But what we can say is that in the background, there is a system in place. And I've now started a rehabilitation program for referees who make errors of judgment, which affect the outcome of the game. And that will be it's already started its implementation stage. So moving forward, we will be using a rehabilitation process instead of a suspension process.
And that's important, Victor, because at the end of the day, you say, I mean, it's human error. It's the same type of error you would have a striker make on the field, a defender, a goalkeeper, and we don't automatically just say, suspend this one and get them off the field.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the player is supposed to go and score a goal. So every time he doesn't go and score a goal, is he going to be suspended? So we need to look at things like that.
Indeed. Victor, thank you so much for talking to us about VAR. What I do want to move into though now is more about your career. You know, you've had such an amazing career. Just the guts that you've had to make the tough decisions when you're in the field as the referee. I mean, we saw you in that AFCON final and you became this meme because everyone was just like, look at this man just taking charge. Talk to us about some of the most memorable moments that you've had on the field as a referee.
I give thanks to God for allowing me to have the career that I have, and the lovely support that I've had from my family, my wife, my family around me, and also the football-loving fans in general. Being a referee is not an easy task, and you have to have your courage of your conviction. And at the end of the day, mistakes will be made, errors of judgment will be made, but you need to know that your error, it's an error, a human error.
Yes.
And as long as I can sleep at night, I was happy. And you know, refereeing, as I said earlier, I was very passionate about refereeing. I still am, and that's what allowed me to just showcase my God-given talent, I guess.
Have you had moments where you are, for lack of a better word, starstruck when you come across certain players and you're just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to handle this one? I mean, we've seen it with footballers hiding their phones very close to the pitch, so as soon as the match ends, they can take nice pictures. And if you have come across people who inspire you from a footballing perspective, how have you managed to just hold your nerve and say, look, Victor, you're here to do a job, do that job?
Honestly,
yeah.
I never had that problem. And I think that was the thing that really helped me, because I treated all the players the same. And there were times where like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no, I don't know. So I think it really helped me, and it helped me maintain and keep my feet on the ground, because I've seen it can get you distracted. And you know, we are humans, we are not robots. We work on emotion as well. And I think that it can affect your decision making.
And finally, Victor, as I wrap up with you, let's just talk about when you finally took that decision, sitting on a flight going home to say, I'm now retiring as a referee. What was the plan? Did you have a plan, or were you just like...
No, I wanted to retire because I wanted to give space for the next one to come and do better than what I did. And I knew that in my heart I wanted to give back to refereeing. And I just prayed about it, and I allowed the space to continue. And here I am today.
Victor, thank you so much for your time this morning, and good luck in your new position out at SAFA. We hope that you'll be able to keep your calm there as well.
Thank you so much.
Victor Gomes, he is the chairman of the referees committee out at the South African Football Association, talking all things VAR, and we look forward to seeing what he'll be able to do there now in that position, of course coming from the position of knowledge as a former referee.